I want to talk to you about why I only buy iPhones used. And the concept is very simple. Obviously, spending less money on a device is a good idea because you get the device for cheaper. But there are a lot more things that go into it, I think, than just buying a used product. This laptop I have here was used. The camera that you're watching on was purchased used. The other camera over there was purchased used. The monitor behind it, the computer behind it, that other monitor, the keyboard, everything I buy basically is used. I used to not buy smartphones used, and the reason being is because people are gross and they take their phones onto toilets. So I was always kind of against buying iPhones used, and as of late, I've actually been buying a lot of older iPhones to test them out to see how they still hold up in 2023, and I've been really impressed by a lot of the performance on the older devices, and cleaning them really hasn't been that hard. So I'm sort of taking a hard line. I'm pro buying iPhones used. I wanted to go over the exact numbers because I sat down and I figured out the exact math on why buying used older iPhones is financially the thing that makes the most sense. So the math is very simple. I did a very simple equation. What would you buy the phone for? Which in this case would be the iPhone 14. You would buy that for $799. The release year is 2020. The resale value, EOL, is end of life. The way I figured that out is I figured out the equivalent phone that would have 6 years of support, which would be, in this case, I believe, an iPhone 7. And so then what I did was I just assumed that that was going to be the price what an iPhone 7 goes for now, is what's the end of value life going to be. And I did the difference, the years of support, and I divided the difference, the total cost you pay, minus the end of life value, and I divided that by 6 because that's about how long iPhones are supported for. And you could see I had the average cost here, $118, and it just sort of works its way down. The thing that I noticed is the way to do it, the way that makes the most financial sense is actually to just buy the phone with 1 year of support left on it and then just use it for that last year, sell it back, and then continuing on that process. I think that's a little silly to be buying a new phone every single year. So what I would probably end up doing if I were you is buying a phone that has anywhere from 2 or 5 years of support left. That seems to be where the numbers make the most sense. And another thing to notice here too is the more expensive the phone is at the beginning of its life cycle, the worse financial decision it is for you, which I think is really interesting. I kind of liken it to the difference between buying a used Toyota or buying a brand new Lexus. Like, yeah, they're both made by the same company, but one of them is going to lose its value much quicker, and the other one's going to lose its value, but it's not going to lose its value in terms of percentage nearly as much. So I hope that makes sense. That's the math on it, and I think the math is interesting because I like numbers. I'm a loser, and I think numbers are cool. But also, I think that there are a lot more reasons to buy a phone used. Obviously, the biggest one is the financial incentives. The next biggest one is because you're not upgrading to the latest and greatest. So when you do upgrade, I think you will find that you appreciate the upgrade a lot more. So for me, when I went from an iPhone 6S to an iPhone 11, because I was just testing the 11 out, I'm actually back down to an iPhone 7 now because I'm testing that one out. I noticed so many leaps and bounds and differences. When you go from an iPhone 11 to an iPhone 12 to an iPhone 13 to an iPhone 14 to now an iPhone 15 probably this year, if you upgrade every single year, you're actually not going to really notice the differences because the differences each year are just this much. They're very tiny each and every year. So when you buy the latest and greatest phone every single year and you upgrade to the latest and greatest phone every single year, which is like what the iPhone payment plan is, the iPhone upgrade program, I hate that program. I think you actually don't get nearly as much satisfaction out of upgrading your phone as you would have gotten had you just waited maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 generations to actually upgrade. And I think buying used, if you're willing to buy used, in this case in 2023, if you're willing to buy like an iPhone 11 or an iPhone 11 Pro, you're willing to buy a used older device. Those devices obviously coming out in 2019, so that's a 4-year-old device at this point. But we all know that that phone is going to last a lot longer than just 4 years. I mean, Apple supports their devices for an extremely long amount of time. And also, even at the end of the life of the phone, they still maintain very decent resale value, which I think is a testament to Apple's quality and just the brand image. If I like for the last reason, and I think this one is kind of the biggest one in terms of an emotional connection to something, I think when you're willing to buy something that's cheaper, that's used, I think you have a different relationship with that device as you would if you were to buy brand new out of the box. I think the relationship you have with that device is you almost, at least for me, I almost have it in a sense of pride where I'm willing to, yeah, I could afford this phone. I could afford the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but I'm more than happy with the iPhone 6S or the iPhone 7. I'm more than happy with these devices because I know that I own the phone and the phone doesn't own me. If you're somebody who's always constantly upgrading to the latest and greatest technology, whether it be computers, whether it be watches, whether it be headphones or smartphones, I think that you are basically controlled by these items, by these purchases. They are pushing you to do something you definitely don't need to do and potentially wouldn't normally do. Like, it makes no sense to upgrade something every year or every 2 years. And especially when there is that same version of that device that works the same or just as well, maybe a tiny bit worse, 95% as good, for like a quarter of the price. Why would you spend $1,200 on a brand new phone when you could buy something that's very comparable for $300? It makes no sense. And then to upgrade that $1,200 device the next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So none of that stuff makes sense. And I think on an emotional basis, to choose to live with a little bit less, I think is a really powerful tool. It obviously is going to be the only way you are financially successful unless you can just continue to earn more and more and more. If you can out earn your bad spending habits, that's potentially a way you could be okay financially. But I think the best way, obviously, to be better off is just to be able to sacrifice a little bit. I'm not asking you to not have a phone at all. I'm saying just spend $300 on a smartphone as opposed to $1,200. And there's something cool about, I know for a lot of people, they buy everything on credit, they buy everything on payment plans. There's something cool about just spending $300, owning the phone, keeping that phone for the next 2, 3, 4 years, and just saying, this is my phone, I like this phone, I own this phone, it's really nice. I drive around a 2012 Town & Country minivan. It's got a TV in it, but it's an 11-year-old vehicle that I love. I absolutely love that car to death. It's got 105,000 miles or something, but I own that car with cash. And there's something so powerful about owning, kind of a junky car. Like, people make fun of me. It's got like some pretty bad rust spots on the exterior of the car. There's something noble externally, but also internally about choosing to live with a little bit less, because you start to look at your life a little bit differently. Like, you know what? I don't need to buy that super nice house or that super nice car or that super nice phone or that super nice computer, because I'm actually happy with what I have. I'm happy with the relationships I have with people, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. The memories that I've had in the minivan when I've spent time with my friends and when I've spent time with my wife and my child, those memories, and my dogs, we'll go take them out and we'll all get like chicken tenders together and we'll feed the dogs. And then my wife and I will eat. And then my little child will also eat along with us. And it's just, those moments mean a lot more than if that car was worth $80,000. They just do. And that's the crux of it, is these devices. Don't let this device own you. Own the device. Those are my 3 reasons why you should buy your phones used. I would be interested to hear why you disagree with me, because I do understand, like, oh, well, there could be problems with the battery life. It's been used a bunch. Like, you don't know, especially as a used device, especially as a phone, they're really hard to have the battery be replaced. So I'm really curious to see what you say, and if you disagree with me or agree with me, and if you've never bought a device used or a phone used, hopefully I changed your mind for the better. Thank you for watching. This has been Scott with Techno Eclipse. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.